How you going here? This is BrynLS here. LS standing for the little saxophone. I don't know. In any case, I wanted to talk to you today about the 11 most important albums that have influenced me as a musician and as a person. So these albums have actually shaped me to become the person who I am today, and I wanted to share them with you and the reasons why you should get into these albums if you haven't already. Okay. So first things first, I'm going to start off with number one. I want to talk about Pearl Jam's 10 album. So 10 was the debut album from Pearl Jam, came out in 91, became really popular in 92 thanks to the big explosion of grunge, thanks to Nirvana. But the thing about 10 in particular, which was really cool, is that it was an awesome album from, an awesome debut album from the band, who were all experienced musicians anyway. They all had, bands previous to them. But when they all came together to create this awesome album with like awesome mixing, and the songs were superbly written as well, and some of the a lot of the guitar work and the bass work and the drums were very iconic as well, which was one of the reasons why I got really into it. So songs like obviously Alive, which is like a grunge anthem, really cool guitar riffs, and the chorus is catchy as hell. Then you've got Jeremy as well, the song Jeremy with its 12-string bass, use of harmonics, and just really powerful sort of song that way, like iconic intro and outro and stuff. And then we've got songs like Black as well. So Black it's a bit of a slower song, it starts off with a bit of a low dynamic sort of thing, but it just just as the song progresses, it just grows and grows, and it's so powerful and emotional, but it's also very, it's so colorful, but it's also very mature. It's very mature as well, the way that the lyrics are written and stuff like that. So I would have to give 10, Pearl Jam's 10 is one of my favorite albums of all time. It's in my top 11. The next album that I want to talk about is an older album back from the 70s. It is Bootsy Collins' The Name is Bootsy Baby. Now this, I got into Bootsy Collins thanks to, bassists like Flea, who was involved, who was pretty much influenced by Bootsy himself, and P-Funk and all sorts of stuff like that. So, learning more about P-Funk, I learned more about Bootsy. So I went with this one because this song has more of the singles that I particularly like from his catalog. Also with Bootsy Collins as well, he was very prolific when it came to using sound effects like, the envelope filters, distortions, delays, putting all that stuff on the bass, which I hadn't heard of before. So, it influenced me on using sound effects on bass as well, and just the general funkiness of it all. So some notable songs from that album, we'd have to say things like What's a Telephone Bill, which was really cool. That actually got me onto effect, like envelope filters, distortion and delay all in one to create this really awesome space sound. And it was just like, it's so wicked. Like I'd never heard anything like it before. And just the way he used syncopation within a really slow funk song as well was just fantastic. Really loved it. We're also looking for things like Munchies for Your Love, which was kind of which is a very similar deal to that. Obviously a more extended jam towards the end of the song. And then there's also The Name is Bootsy Baby, which, that was my introduction song into Bootsy Collins, to his solo stuff. So just having that song, just really cool, wicked groove to go with it. And again, using the envelope filter with the delay, wow sort of thing was really cool. Really wicked. So that's really important to me as a musician. Alright, the next album I want to talk about is Heavy Weather by Weather Report. Now, when I was in high school, I was introduced to Weather Report and Jaco Pastorius thanks to my guitar teacher, who was my bass teacher as well. He got me into Jaco Pastorius and made me play a few of his songs, things like Teen Town. And he introduced me into like Havana and stuff like that as well. And when I heard it, I was just blown away, completely blown away. To be honest with you, I actually prefer the 8:30 album from Weather Report more than Heavy Weather, because I really like the live versions of the songs from this particular album, but I didn't want any live albums. I wanted actual proper albums. So I had to exclude that out of there. But if you can listen to 830 instead, I'd say listen to that. You know, broader range of songs, but it's so good. And a lot of these songs stem from this album in particular. So, you know, obviously introduced me into jazz fusion and stuff like that as well. Introduced me into fretless bass. I thought it was really, really cool, really, really wicked. Yeah, it just opened up the world of bass and jazz to me. So then, you know, I started learning a lot more about that. It helped me get into university, into a music degree and all that sort of stuff too. So notable tracks that I want to mention to you is obviously things like Teen Town, which, you know, it's iconic runs and stuff like that as well. Just wicked, just absolutely wicked. I used that as one of my performance assessments back in high school. Went from there. There was also A Remark You Made from that album, which was probably one of the most emotionally sounding songs I've ever heard in my life, just with the high ends that the bass uses as well, and just the mixture where the melody goes between the sax, the keyboards, and the bass, just all interwoven from there. So cool. And of course, I want to mention as well the track Havona. Dat run though, all right? If you don't know what I'm talking about, just listen to the song and you'll hear it. That sort of thing is so cool. I wish I could do it effectively. Obviously, I need to keep practicing it a bit more, but oh my god, that song is so good. Like 13 chords throughout the whole thing, but that run is what makes the song. So check it out when you can. Alright, so another album I want to talk about is, and this is probably a little bit left field for those who know me, but I want to talk about Kanye West's My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy. Oh, jeez, man! Like I like my hip hop. Don't get me wrong. I like hip hop, and I'm kind of into the the golden age sort of thing, like the old school sort of stuff. With your Tupacs and Biggies and all that sort of stuff. However, having like this rap album, this album was just completely it drew me in. Everything that was working with it. It was just so many cool guest artists that were on it who made up some really cool parts. The way that Kanye uses the voice as an instrument, even though like half of it's auto-tuned and distorted as hell. But yeah, just the way everything is orchestrated. It's not just giving us songs, it's telling us a story as well. And to me, it grew on me a lot. It grew on me a lot, and I thought it was really, really wicked. It's probably my favorite rap / hip hop album of all time. So I have to give credit to that one. Like Kanye, as weird as he can be at times, he is a master at what he does, and this album is no exception. This album shows it so much. Some of the songs I wanted to talk about here were things like Power, all right, one of his singles there, so that really, really wicked, talks about him and how America's reacted to him as well. And also another song I wanted to mention was Runaway as well. Really, really wicked song. I love the piano intro to it. Just minimal, but so effective. And then another one I wanted to mention as well was All of the Lights. Another single from the album as well, and it was just, oh man, just like the story. I could not that I could relate, but I could definitely empathize with the story that he was trying to tell. But yeah, so All of the Lights, just such a catchy sort of riffs, catchy parts to it as well. You can't deny how cool it is. So yeah, My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy is definitely in my top 11 albums of all time. Another album I want to talk about, and some of you probably already know this, for those who know me or for those who have listened to my music, you can probably hear this influence from here. I want to talk about At the Drive-In, Relationship of Command. Now, Relationship of Command was the last album At the Drive-In did before they broke up, and then several years later they recame again. But I wanted to I like this album in particular because of just the power and the rawness of the mix of the music and stuff like that as well. The songs, the way they were written and everything like that as well. It was just so just the use of the creative surrealist lyrics as well. Having the guitar parts, your post-hardcore sort of punkish sort of guitar, and then your lead guitar parts, which are completely out of key as well. But putting it all together just sounds so wicked, and it's just orchestrated and mixed in such a way that sounds so cool. And I have heavily been influenced by that sort of stuff. And some notable songs that I wanted to mention from that were obviously the singles One Arm Scissor, having songs with a different timing for it, like with different verses. They had different verses for each song. Like each verse was different. The first verse was in 3/4. The second verse was in 4/4. The third verse was at 4/4 again, but it had a different feel to it. It had a different drum beat. It had different everything. So it was just the way that everything was orchestrated was just so cool. Another song that I wanted to mention as well was Rolodex Propaganda, which was really really cool. They got Iggy Pop to sing a few of the lyrics in that song as well, which was always cool. But yeah, just the power and the sonic energy that came from that song just by listening to it. So much power comes from that. Just everything from like the keyboard synth parts during the chorus, the call back and forth between Jim and Cedric as well. Just between those, just seeing how everything works that way, just so cool, so wicked. Another song as well that I want to mention is Cosmonaut from that album. Cosmonaut actually inspired me to read more fiction books, particularly science fiction. So it's got a really powerful pumping tempo with it as well. It's just really wicked, and just the pushes the dynamics to its maximum. It's just that much power to it. It's so cool. Another album I want to talk about is Green Day's Dookie album. So Dookie is arguably Green Day's biggest album. Definitely what put them on the map back in the 90s. I believe it was 94, I think it was. Anyway, but they had some awesome singles from that album as well. But generally, the whole album in itself, I mean, when I listen to it, there's only like 2 songs that I would actually try and skip. The rest of the songs of the rest of the 12 tracks that were on that album, I believe it was 12 tracks, were just really, really cool, and you could just listen to it from start to finish. I used to listen to this album when I was playing Tony Hawk's Pro Skater back in the day. I would actually turn the sound off on the game and just listen to Green Day instead as I was skating around and stuff like that too. So really cool stuff. Awesome pop punk. I want to talk about a couple of songs from that album. So obviously things like Basket Case, their lead single, was so cool. Basket Case was basically Pachelbel's Canon, but in punk form. And just, those, and the lyrics as well, just the opening lyrics. Do you have the time to listen to me whine about nothing and everything all at once? It just drags you straight in. It just crunches you and you go, oh, we're already into it. And just the rest of the song just rips from there. Another song as well is obviously the most poppy one, the most pop one out of there, which was When I Come Around. Really wicked bass line, really catchy 1-5-6-4 chord progression as well. It's just really, really cool. Like it's for a pop song, you can't really get much more than that. So that was really wicked to try and learn and play and all sorts of stuff like that. Really got me into it from there. And another song that I wanted to talk about was Longview as well. So Longview, obviously one of the coolest bass lines of all time. I think it was voted like the 3rd or 4th best punk bass line according to Bass Guitar magazine back in the day. But in any case, it's like really wicked bass line. Just obviously the bass just carries the song the whole way through. I mean, the lyrics are pretty cool as well. The vocals are cool. The drum beat's really wicked. But yeah, it's the bass that carries the song. Okay, so check it out if you haven't already. If you're a bass player and you haven't heard that, please listen to it. It's so cool. Alright, so another album I wanted to talk about is we're looking at Faith No More's Angel Dust album. So I had listened to Introduce Yourself and The Real Thing before this album. But and don't get me I really like The Real Thing. I thought that was like one of the coolest albums I've ever listened to, and it still is. Don't get me wrong. But I think in terms of what's actually affected me more, what I think is the better album, I'd have to say Angel Dust. So Americans don't think so, but Europeans and some Australians think that Angel Dust is better. The reason why I think this is better is just the way the songs are written, because they had more of Mike Patton's input into it. I think it really brought out more of what the band was capable of. Who else would be able to sing a song about blowjobs, basically giving homosexual blowjobs? It's really, really, really weird stuff, but yeah, it's such a cool album. Like musically, everything is just so wicked. And you know, some of the most notable songs that I wanted to talk about on that album were things like obviously Midlife Crisis, which was the lead single off the song. There was also Kindergarten, which I really like the bass line for. It's really cool and groovy bass lines with an awesome distorted guitar on it as well. And the other one was A Small Victory. A Small Victory is a really wicked song as well. I actually hated A Small Victory when I first listened to it. I didn't like listening. I used to skip it all the time. But when I actually sat down and listened to it, it was, I realized that, you know what, this is actually really catchy. It's really cool. Yeah, it's like, it has to grow on you. It grows on you. And now I prefer listening to that song than a lot of other songs from that album anyway. I'd rather, I'd like to listen to that one some of the most, a lot of the time now. So yeah, check out that album. It's if you liked, if you like something that's a little bit out there from your normal rock songs, check out Faith No More's Angel Dust. It's really cool stuff. Getting into like the top 4 sort of albums now. We're looking at Primus's Sailing the Seas of Cheese. Now, Sailing the Seas of Cheese was not the album I wanted to choose initially. I wanted to choose, I think Suck on This was actually more influential to me than what Seas of Cheese was. But obviously I didn't want live albums. I wanted proper studio albums and stuff like that as well. So I didn't include that one. But I think in terms of the songs that influenced me the most would have come from the Seas of Cheese album. The first album I actually got from Primus was actually what was it? Pork Soda. That was my first Primus album. But I ended up getting Seas of Cheese at some point, and yeah, a lot of the songs from that album, basically that's the album that influenced me, to play 6-string bass. All right, I can't deny Les Claypool being one of the bass gods, who can do almost anything and everything, and I wanted to be like that. I wanted to be like Les Claypool. I wanted to play like him and do all sorts of stuff like that too. So I practiced the hell out of that album and tried to play as much as I could and go from there. So. The most notable songs from that album that I have to say is obviously number 1, Tommy the Cat. It's such an awesome song. Unfortunately, some of the tablature and sheet music that was written for it is actually a bit incorrect. Not by much, but it's definitely not 100% correct. But at the same time, I don't play it 100% correct anyway. So it was really cool. Like, that's such an awesome song. Awesome bass riffs, awesome techniques, awesome drums, awesome guitar solo in it as well. You can't deny it. It's such a cool song. So other songs from that album include things like Jerry Was a Race Car Driver, obviously getting the tapping in there as well, doing that sort of thing as well. That was really, really cool. For some reason, it actually reminds me of, again, I think that was featured on a Tony Hawk game. But it also I don't know why, but it just reminds me of Mortal Kombat for some reason, like the first Mortal Kombat game, like when you're playing on the pit stage with the moon in the background and stuff. Another important song from that album was that I would say influenced me was Here Come the Bastards. Mainly because of the strumming technique that Les Claypool uses in that song, and the fact that it was because it's in 5/4 as well, a bit of an odd time. I really dig that. I thought it was really cool. So yeah, and it's like harmonically, it's really simple stuff. It's going up semitone basically. But yeah, it's so wicked, so cool, and so fun to play. So you can't really deny it. Like most of Primus's catalog, I think is really, really cool. So, but yeah, if you want to, what influenced me the most would probably have to be Seas of Cheese. Alright, so now we're going into the top 3. Okay, so this is in order as well. I'd say this is in order of what influenced me as a musician. So my, top 3 albums. Let's talk about the third one. The Mars Volta's De-Loused in the Comatorium. So I'm a big Mars Volta fan. I love lots of things that they do. I've seen them live before, and it was just completely kicking. I remember the bass just pumping me on the chest back when I was in the mosh pit there, and the guitar was just loud and blaring and all that sort of stuff, just really putting it off. It was just like, it was completely nuts, and just the jams that they would do during that performance as well, so cool. This album is what got me into the Mars Volta, thanks to a good friend of mine back in high school. He was really into that as well, because he was into At the Drive-In just like I was. He got me into At the Drive-In as well, so I have to thank my friend for that. You know who you are if you watch this. If you don't, then I'll tell you. In any case, yeah, just such a wicked album. I've never heard an album like this before. Like this album got me into all sorts of prog rock. It's got me into things like Yes. It got me into like early Pink Floyd stuff. It got me into Genesis and stuff like that as well, like listening to all that sort of thing. And even listening to more modern prog stuff as well. It allowed me to, you know, explore a bit of Dream Theater as well, the prog metal scene too. But yeah, this was the opener. This opened up the doors for me because of how cool it was. And I went with this album in particular because it was the first album of theirs. It influenced me so much, and it had Flea on bass. And I think it's got the selection of the best songs that they've written on there as well. So that includes things like, obviously, Cicatra's ESP was definitely the Mars Volta song for me. Just to having that simple riff, that simple groove being played, you know, over and over and over, just repetitive sort of stuff, just really pumping it. The minimal yet surrealist lyrics as well. So good, really wicked song. And the fact it went for 12 minutes as well, I was really into like long songs at that time too. So it was really cool having to listen to that. Another song that influenced me would have been Inertiatic ESP. Again, I think that was their only single from the album. It's like such a driving song, such a cool song. Just with the 3/4 timing in that as well. So even that was just really wicked. And then there's a 7/4 part in there as well. It's just so cool. Like, you know, and I played it with a band I played it as part of an ensemble at university back in the day, and yeah, it was so cool. So cool. And then the last song that I'd probably say would be really cool is Haunt of Roulette Dares. Another song really wicked. It's got 6/8 timing to it as well. It's got great melodies in it, which actually influenced me to try and write a song of my own, where I kind of I borrowed, well, I didn't borrow, but I kind of reinterpreted the harmony part that they did during a breakdown as well, that I used for a song that I wrote in memory of a friend of mine who passed away. But yeah, the dynamic shifts in that song as well for Haunted Roulette Dares. So wicked. And yeah, that's an album I could listen to at any point, at any time, and just go, you know what? I'm at ease. So check that out if you haven't already. Okay, well, looking at the number 2 album that has influenced me as a musician, I happened to get this album in high school thanks to a girl who lent me $20 so I could buy it from a CD store back at Crown Casino. And I did pay her back. In any case, like this album, like I was introduced to these songs by my guitar teacher, who taught me bass, and he when he gave me some tabs for it, some sheet music for it, I was like, oh my god, this is wicked. This is really cool. So I ended up getting this particular album. This album called Lateralis by Tool. It was like, again, like I had never heard anything like it before. I was like, oh my god, this is so wicked. Just everything, just, you know, just the odd times they used, the mixing, the guitar tones, the bass tones as well, you know. And I became obsessed with Tool for such a long time. I would listen to all their stuff after that. So I listened to, you know, Anima, I listened to Undertow, I listened to Opiate EP, that sort of stuff. I tried to listen to all sorts of other things as well. I tried to listen to live versions of things. I became obsessed with them during this time. Even when 10,000 Days came out, I got it like on day 1, or day 2 or something like that. I ended up getting it really early as well, and just listened to the hell out of that. But Lateralis is what influenced me the most. So notable songs from that album, obviously Schism, so cool. Just the 5/8 7/8 riff that they do is just completely killer. Like, you know, trust them to come up with something like that and make it such a cool groove. Lateralis was such a wicked song as well. Again, using mathematical concepts to create a song, you know, using the Fibonacci sequence for, you know, to write the syllables for the melody. You know, it's so like, I don't know anybody else who would do that. And another one was this was probably my favorite song from the album, Parabola. Just the way that it kicks in, like it starts off with Parabol at the start. When it kicks into Parabola, just when the dynamics, just with the distortion feedback kicking in, and then you got that so cool, so powerful, And yeah, that I felt like that was my anthem for a long time. Just so many, it's almost like it's got an inspiring sort of message to it for me. For me, I interpreted the lyrics as being very inspiring. You know, pain is just an illusion. This body holding me. Be reminded that I'm not alone. It's that sort of stuff like that. I just thought, wow, that is so cool. I didn't understand much of it, so I had to obviously reinterpret it my way. But yeah, those 3 songs are some of the, like, the rest of the album is really cool too. But yeah, just those 3 songs in particular just really got to me, really affected me, and made me appreciate who Tool are, what they can do, and just, you know, their wicked abilities. Well, I'm sailing. Everyone, we're looking at number 1 album. The number 1 album that has influenced me as a musician and as a person has to be, well, could it be anybody else? It's the Red Hot Chili Peppers with their album Blood Sugar Sex Magik. All right. Now, a lot of people tend to like, you know, albums like Californication, in particular, saying that was their favorite album. And don't get me wrong, like, Californication's a fantastic album. It's so cool, but that didn't shape me as much as Blood Sugar Sex Magik did. I think Blood Sugar Sex Magik was the turning point for the Chili Peppers to go from these rockers who were kind of underground, starting to develop their way. This is what made them become mature musicians, you know, mature professional musicians from there. Really looking back at what they were doing and going, you know what, we can make better songs. We can make something that is killer, yet something that would make us, you know, obviously can make it more pop as well to a degree. But it was it's just so cool, so cool stuff. And the way that everything's mixed, because it's mixed so minimally as well, like, there's not much production on it, but so a lot of it just comes down to, you know, the Chili Peppers as players, you know, as musicians. It all comes down to that. And the way that Rick Rubin had organized everything, and I think it was Brendan O'Brien who mixed it, just the way the whole album was done, it was just, everything just turned out so well. There is not one song on that album that I would skip. I would listen to it from start to finish. I would learn every lyric. I would learn every bass line. I'm attempting to learn every guitar line as well to it. It is my album. It is an album that is mine. Okay, that album is me. That I cannot part with that album. All right, even if my CD got scratched, I would buy like 10 copies. Main songs, like I can't even limit the songs on like the notable ones. I'm trying to give 3 notable songs. With this album, I can't. I'm going to tell you which awesome songs you should definitely focus on with this particular album and go from there. Notable songs from this album are things like, obviously, Give It Away, which is arguably, like Flea said, that was his favorite bass line of all time that he's created, and it's arguably one of the funkiest songs they've ever recorded of all time. Other songs that do really well as well that you should listen to is things like Suck My Kiss, such an awesome syncopated sort of groove as well to go with that, with the bass and the guitar doing unison lines together as well. Other songs that work are things like Under the Bridge too. Under the Bridge was like the pop song that mums would sing to in the kitchen back in the day as well. Like they got them singing. Such a nice, you know, nice 1-5-6-4 chord progression sort of thing. Other songs as well that I want to say that notable are things like Breaking the Girl with its psychedelic sort of and it was one of the only songs by the Chili Peppers in like a 3/4 time, because they never did 3/4 time back in those days. Everything was kind of just everything was basically just 4/4, minus like 1 or 2 like filler tracks or something like that. But yeah, have a proper song with Breaking the Girl, with such a great guitar line. Like the guitar chords are fantastic. I love them. Just being played on a 12-string sounds really nice too. And another notable song as well is probably the dirtiest, downright, oh my god, this filthy sort of funk song, So Psycho Sexy. Just having the bass, like envelope filter mixed with a bit of distortion on it as well, just cranking it up, just giving it this dirty funk sort of thing, with the guitar playing in the high registers as well, with Anthony kind of rapping over it as well. Just, oh man, just so good. So good. So it's just like dirty, funky taste to it. And it's so wicked. So those albums completely influenced me as a person and a musician. I wouldn't be where I am today without those albums. They shaped everything that I did with my music, and I wouldn't change any of that. Like, it was so hard to try and put them in order as well. Like, I think the top 5 I could put in an order, but the rest of the albums that I mentioned, the other 6, I couldn't do it. I couldn't put them in an order. It's just too hard. But definitely, like, you know, from 5 to 1, it's definitely Angel Dust, Sailing the Seas of Cheese, D-Less and the Comatorium, Lateralis, and then Blood Sugar Sex Magic. Those are the influential albums of my life, and I highly recommend that you give them a listen. You give them the time, you give them the place, you listen to their albums, put it as part of your stream on Spotify, put it as part of a mix on YouTube or anything like that you do. Have a listen to them. You will not regret it. And if you do regret it, you're wrong. I'll see you guys next time. So long.